Together.
Jesus, Savior, pilot me over life's tempestuous sea. Unknown waves before me roll, hiding rock and treacherous shore. Chart and compass come from thee. Jesus, Savior, steals her child, thou canst hush the ocean wild. Boisterous waves obey thy will, when thou sayest to them be still. Wondrous sovereign of the sea, Jesus, Savior, pilot me. Shore, and the fearful breakers roll, twixt me and the peaceful rest. Then while leaning on thy breast, may I hear thee say to me, fear not, I will pilot thee.
Any song request? Any hymn request? Four 93525 645. We'll start with hymn 493, Fill My Cup, Lord.
Seeking for things that could not satisfy, and then I heard my Savior speaking, draw from my well that never shall run dry. Fill my cup, Lord, I lift it up, Lord, come and quench this thirsting of my soul. Bread of heaven, feed me till I want no more. Fill my cup, fill it up and make me whole. There are millions in this world who are craving the pleasure earthly things afford, but none can match the wondrous treasure that I find in Jesus Christ my Lord. Fill my cup, Lord, I lift it up, Lord, come and quench this thirsting of my soul. Bread of heaven, feed me till I want no more. Fill my cup, fill it up and make me whole. So my children, if the things this world gave you, live hard kneel to him and humbly pray. Fill my cup, Lord, I lift it up, Lord. Come and quench this thirsting of my soul. Bread of heaven, feed me till I want no more. Fill my cup, fill it up, and make me whole.
Hymn 525, Hiding in Thee.
Oh, safe to the rock that is higher than I, my soul in its conflicts and sorrows would fly, so sinful, so weary that thine would I be, the blessed rock of ages, I'm hiding in thee, hiding in thee, hiding in thee, the blessed rock of ages, I'm hiding in thee. In the calm of the noontide, in sorrows Lord now, in times when temptation cast stormy its power, in the tempest of life on its wide heaving sea, the blessed rock of ages, I'm hiding in thee, hiding in thee, hiding in thee, the blessed rock of ages, I'm hiding in thee. How often the conflict when pressed by the foe, I have fled to my refuge and breathed out my woe. How often when trials like sea billows roll, have I hidden in thee, O the rock of my soul, hiding in thee, hiding in thee, the blessed rock of ages, I'm hiding in thee.
Verse 608, then 645. Faith is the victory. Hymn 608.
Encamped along the hills of light, in Christian soldiers rise, and press the battle ere the night shall veil the glowing skies. Against the foe in veils below, let all our strength be high. Faith is the victory we know, that overcomes the world. Faith is the victory, faith is the victory. Oh, glorious victory that overcomes the world. On every hand the foe we find, drawn up in dread array. Let tents of ease grief be left behind, and onward to the fray. Salvation's helmet on each head, with truth all girt about. The earth shall tremble with the tread, and echo with a shout. Faith is the victory, faith is the victory. Oh, glorious victory that overcomes the world. To him that overcomes the foe, where raiment shall begin. Before the angels he shall know his name confessed in heaven. Then onward from the hills of light, our hearts with love aflame, will vanquish all the host of night. In Jesus' conquering name, faith is the victory, faith is the victory. Oh, glorious victory that overcomes the world.
Good afternoon and happy Sabbath. May I request, that we all stand for opening hymn, and then we shall follow it with a prayer so that we start the afternoon program.
Let's turn to hymn 473, Nearer My God to Thee.
Nearer, my God, to thee, nearer to thee. And though it be the cross that raiseth me, still all my song shall be. Storm. to thee, nearer, my God, to thee, nearer to thee. Oh, if on joyful wings, cleaving the sky, sun, moon, and stars forgot, upward I fly. Still all my soul shall be nearer, my God, to thee, nearer, my God, to thee, nearer to thee.
Our Father in heaven, we come before you this evening. Thank you, dear Lord, for the morning, and praying, Lord, that we may draw closer and closer to you. That the discussions we'll have this afternoon and the lessons we shall learn, O dear Father, may help us to draw closer to you, O dear Father. May help us to equalize with those who are infected and affected, that, Lord, the battle may be won early and early enough because of your strength. We ask this trusting and believing in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Be seated. Although I would have loved to have you nearer, Ma'am, I would have loved to have you nearer to me, not to the other wall. I am not too sure the rationale for people choosing the rear seats, at least for today. We have 3 speakers this afternoon, potentially 2, and very likely 1. Oh, so we have potentially 3. We may do 2 of them, but it's very difficult for reasons of content and for reasons of hitting the whole nail into the wood, maybe 1. But that will depend a lot on how it goes. Maybe I can just confirm, I don't know whether it is done. There was a speaker by the name Mercy Kurui, who is supposed to be giving us some talk through Zoom. She's there? Okay. So she may not start, but she will join us if possible. If she can't, that's fine. We will see what to do with the rest of that. The second speaker shall be our sister Karen Owocha. I think some of you know her. Some of you don't. She's seated there. She will come at her time. And the third one, who is one of the leaders of HIV/AIDS in this church, HIV/AIDS Council in this church, is Beatrice. Is it Beatrice or Betty Likindu? She's seated right there. So she will also be giving us some topic. We cannot fail to recognize the presence of her leader, which is Sister Lynette Odondi. You can stand and greet people because you might not be speaking here. And the elder attached, Elder Martin Obat. Karibuni sana. I want to go straight into, my name is Dr. Ambrose Nyangao. I'm one of the council members of the HIV/AIDS committee. I want to just start by a few questions as we wait for our sister Watcher Karen to be ready. I'm not sure whether she's ready. The moment I see her here, I will stop the questions. How many of us have heard of HIV, the virus? There are some people who have not even heard of it. And now it's almost all of us. How many of us know the meaning of the word HIV? Okay? Tutauliza baadaye, sahi ni kujua tu wale wanajua. And how many know the word AIDS? AIDS. So now comes the question which must be answered. Microphone iende huko. Chukua hii microphone, uniambie, what's the difference between HIV and AIDS? Because that difference is not necessarily that clear. If you are a health worker, you can, for today, not answer that question. Especially if you sit in the council. Because you have the marking scheme with you. Anybody? The difference between HIV and AIDS? Okay, no one is volunteering, so I can volunteer somebody. Aya. Mwenye microphone na yeye atsongi. Si atembea aende afike huko. Tina, answer for them.
HIV, I think at the end of it there's the word virus, so I think it's a virus.
Okay.
And AIDS, sindio ugonjwa, I think.
So HIV is a virus. Nani anaweza mjazia hiyo nyingine? Did I see? Okay, health workers you can assist. Oh, there is somebody there.
Tina is right, huh?
Yes.
HIV is a virus. AIDS, well, you say it's acquired immune deficiency disease, the disease that you get when the body cannot fight the virus.
Yes.
So it's the disease as a result of the virus.
Okay. So the body cannot fight diseases, including infections and cancers, as a result of the virus. That is important because there are some people who have immune deficiency but not resulting from the virus. I don't like harassing elders, but if an elder would tell me how many people so far is estimated that have died of HIV AIDS or have died from complications of AIDS, how many people in the world? Worldwide. Elder Bob, eh? Mwenye anasukuma, kuna elder mwingine pia hapa ameshachukua microphone.
Happy Sabbath. From the presentation in the morning, we are told about 5,000 people, 2,700 dies every day.
Okay.
2,700 dies every day.
Yes.
Well, and 5,000 get it every day. Acquire it every day.
Actually, it was 500.
500.
Yeah. The pronunciation was 5,000, but the writing was 500. Elder Bob, you still have an answer. You still have room. He's right in totality, in total, but you still had a different answer, which might also be right. 40.1 million. Correct. He has said it. 40.1 million. In Kenya, what is the average percentage infection in Kenya? HIV. Anybody knows the figures? Okay. We will not go into those figures. But may I ask you, have you seen people who have AIDS being treated differently? Have you ever seen that? Yeah? You have seen. What is your experience? What can you testify could be a difference? Unajua ukijibu yes, there could be some difference that you remember. Eric. Wow, utatembea na hiyo huko. What have you seen that is slightly different? Why somebody would want to try and come up with a theme of this nature? I can let you. Anybody else who has an answer? Okay, I thought I heard even some people saying chorus, yes. Najua shida nikiwa na kujua naweza kusema Esther, so tusaidie. Some differences you've noticed. Yes, I volunteered Esther. Have you ever noticed any difference the way we treat people who are negative and the people we know are positive? I guess she comes across these things every day. That's why I volunteered her.
Differences in
The way we
treatment.
treat them, the way we relate with them.
Yeah, of course there is stigma. It has not ended. So there is a way we are told we should we treat them equally. But when you visit most of our health facilities and the way they are being treated, it's different, because those who are negative and those who are positive, they're treated differently. For instance, those who are positive, we put more precautions on them so that they don't transmit infection to the health workers. And those who are negative, also we treat them differently, but with caution, because unless they are being tested, you never know who is positive and who is negative unless one has been tested for HIV.
So if I saw you attending to Emmanuel and wearing one pair of gloves, and then when you are now attending to Douglas, you are wearing 2 pairs of gloves, how would Douglas feel? Elders munisaidia hapa, mumekaa mbali. How would Douglas feel? Then the previous patient, I was wearing only 1 pair of gloves, but now the second patient, I'm wearing 2 pairs. Food for thought. Last question I want to ask, then I allow her to start. In your workplace, have you noticed the way people who have been perceived to be HIV positive or people who have AIDS, if they are discriminated or not? Have you noticed any difference the way they are treated? Are they discriminated or not? Hamtaki kusema? Lakini tukitoka tu pale nje tutaanza kuongea. Yes, there are some elders behind there who have decided to save me from... Oh, you had a hand here. I didn't see.
Amujambo. Discrimination about HIV. I think discrimination is all over. Even the person himself, once he has been diagnosed of HIV, himself, he loses self-esteem. He becomes negative even to himself. Some of them even destroy their lives. Number 2, the surrounding where the person lives, whether it is place of job, whether it is at home, whether it is in church, once they know that this person is positive, the surrounding environment starts to change to this person. Almost everybody else is like, he is HIV, I should not come close. All these things are even in the church, everywhere else. So from work, from the person himself, from the church, the people of God, and even from the professionals, the doctors.
So what you are saying, you are confirming there is.
Yes.
Thank you. Elder.
Okay. I think if you allow me to respond to the first one which you asked on how an HIV infected person should be treated while at the health facility. I think ideally there should be no difference. The difference would only be known to the health personnel, not the patient or the patients who are there, being in a position to recognize that the way the other patient has been treated, it seems he or she is an HIV-infected person. That should be handled by the health personnel themselves. So in a nutshell, there should be no obvious difference in the way the patient is being treated. It is only the health personnel that should know that. Come to workplace. Currently, there are a lot of sensitization and awareness that's been done. The workplace policies that are guiding on the treatment or the way the other staff should treat this patient. There should be, ideally there should be no form of discrimination, because we are all aware of how the virus is being transmitted. So long as that has been made aware, we have been made aware of that, all of us should interact and treat each other the same to minimize on the stigmatization and also to embrace each other. I think Pastor just reminded us that all of us are equal with or without HIV. That is the point I wanted to share, my elder.
Thank you. From that point, now I bring to you the speaker of the hour. She'll take you through the policies that are there, the overview of the role of HIV and AIDS Tribunal in protecting the rights. She's a lawyer by profession, and I don't know whether she has transferred her membership from here, but she used to be. You are not. She's not a member here. Oh, she's still a member here. She has not transferred her membership. So mukaribishe, please musiwe tunalala kidogo. It's very easy tempting to sleep, but if we see somebody yawning like Emmanuel, tutasimama juu na tuimbe sote. Please welcome her for this particular time, approximately 1 hour. It's not too long.
Thank you so much, Elder. Good afternoon, church. How are you? You are so down. Haven't you eaten something? I have a special request. My presentation is quite small, so I'll request those who are very far from the screen to come closer so that you'll be able to see what we are discussing. Please, if you are not able to see, please kindly come closer to the screen. My name is Kerina Uwocha. I'm a member of Nairobi East SDA Church, and I was a youth in the SDA Church here before, but now I've graduated and I've crossed line to the other side. I work with the judiciary, and I'm particularly in the tribunals. You remember tribunals moved to the judiciary, so I work with the HIV and AIDS Tribunal. The number of tribunals which have since transited to the judiciary are now around 23. So HIV is among one of the tribunals which have moved to the judiciary. So now we are under full leadership of the judiciary. Now, before I start my presentation, perhaps we need to appreciate why the HIV and AIDS Tribunal. And one thing that we take pride in as Kenyans is that we are the only country in the whole universe that has a court that specializes to protect the rights of people living with or affected by HIV. So why HIV and AIDS Tribunal? In the year 1984, when the first case was reported in the Republic of Kenya, and then President, the late Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, was told there is a case of someone who is HIV positive. But as my sisters indicated, because of stigma and discrimination, there was panic. And actually, there was a public announcement that the said person was not a Kenyan. The president said he was a Ugandan who was passing by because of the stigma associated with the disease. But ideally, that person was a Kenyan. So in 1987, that is 3 years after denying, the late Dr. Joe Muruki, he passed on in February this year. He came out and publicly said, I'm living with HIV. So when he went for functions, no one will sit close to him. When he went to an hotel, after being served food, his plate will be broken and taken to the dustbin. That was the level of stigma that was there. So the then Attorney General gave, because as the legal advisor of the government, told the president that there was an emergency. And when it's an emergency, everything stops, and now you concentrate on the emergency. So a task force was formed, ideally as that is the norm of Kenyan, and this task force was, the main mandate, the reason why it was formed, they were tasked now to come up with the recommendation on how to deal with this mandate that come. That is the HIV and AIDS. And one of the recommendations that the task force came up with was that we need to have a special court which will protect and promote the rights of these people. The chair of the said task force was Senior Counsel Rachiera Molo. He was the chair of the said council. And one of the recommendations was that a law needed to be put in place. And therefore, it was through this task force that gave birth to the HIV AIDS Control and Prevention Act. So the HIV and AIDS Tribunal is a baby of an act of parliament which was gazetted and came to pass as a law in the year 2006. That is when it was gazetted. And if you look at this act, section 25 of the said act established the HIV and AIDS Tribunal, which says a court will be established, and since this court is dealing with the disease, the membership is going to be unique. For I believe one of us or some of us have gone to the courts. When you go to a court, you will find people seated on the dais just the way you are seated, and up front here you will find a judge or a magistrate, depending on the nature of the case that you have. At the HIV AIDS Tribunal, that is not how we do things. We are a special court. We have a human face. And being that we are dealing with disease, the membership of these board members, where you call the judges, we have 3 lawyers in the panel. The chair is an advocate of the High Court with the 7 years post-admission as an advocate. Then we have 2 other lawyers. Then we have 2 medical doctors who are registered members with the Kenya Medical Practitioners Board. Then we have 2 people with special knowledge on HIV. Under these 2 people with special knowledge on HIV, one of them is supposed to be recommended by a board or a body which is protecting the right of people living with HIV. Currently in Kenya, that body is called NEFAC, which is a network of people living with HIV. The other person is expected to be someone who has come out publicly to declare that I am HIV positive. Reason being, they say nothing for them without them. So if you have a board member who is HIV positive, they're able to relate, they're able to come out of fear and stigma, and they're able to report their cases. Now, the slides are there, but I will try to engage us as possible. So I might not go as per the slides, but I will share them. If in your convenience, you can go through them. They are very rich materials, and I believe after this presentation, your perception will change. Because one thing, all of us are casualties. Why am I saying this? For you to come before the HIV tribunal, you don't need to be HIV positive. So which means, therefore, you are either affected or infected. When I say you are affected, which means either your relative, your spouse, your friend, your siblings, or someone who is close to you is HIV positive. And as a result, you are facing stigma to that effect. When I say you are infected, you are living positive. We don't say people are HIV positive. We say you are living positive. And the reason why I was skeptical standing here, some of the utterances might not be good with the pulpit, but we say this at the HIV tribunal. We say everyone is HIV positive until confirmed otherwise. Why are we saying this? If you are sexually active and you have not tested for a period of time, you can't rule out HIV. And Dr. Ambrose will confirm with me. If you test today and you are told you are HIV negative, the doctor will say, please come after 3 months for confirmation. Meaning what? It has not ruled you out. Why am I saying so? You might be HIV positive, but at the time of HIV testing, you are in the window period. So the test kits were not able to detect. Or the test kits were faulty. Remember, they are made by human, and human is to error. So perhaps they are not up to task. Another instance, they might have expired. or there might be human error when reading out the results. When we will going through the testing process and the cases that are brought before the tribunal, when we are doing testing involves the 5 C's. For those who are in the medical field, they understand. When you test, there are 5 C's: the confidentiality, consent, correct results, connect to care and medication. So perhaps 1 or 2 instances are missing there. So when you test, chances are high that you might not get the right results. That's why you are told come back after 3 months. Another questions that have come into place: why HIV? Right now we had COVID. Why didn't we create a court for COVID? Some are saying cancer has been killing people. Why haven't we created a tribunal for cancer? The reason why I'm saying this HIV and AIDS was reported way back before I was born, and we are still having this issue up to date. The issue is not even sometimes stigma from the society. Sometimes it's self-stigma. Because for you to accept the outcome of the results is not easy. That disclosure, that process of accepting yourself is a journey, is a process. So if you're not able to accept who you are, who are we to accept you as you are? So first you have to accept yourself so that you can conform to the society, so that whenever we say, we throw words, you have accepted who you are. Now, the HIV and AIDS Tribunal, as I had indicated, as created by the Act, it deals with 5 areas in violation of the HAPCA. So what are these 5 areas? We have the 5 areas, which is the consent. And when I say consent is in 2 forms. It can be consent when you are testing, and consent where you are disclosing the outcome of the results. For the young mothers in the house, when you went for your antenatal clinic, you must have undergone HIV test. I'm seeing you with a small baby. Allow me to use you as an example. Is that true? Someone to help me with the mic. We are going to be practical. When you went to the antenatal care for your Linda Mama Kitabu, you are told, since you are expecting a baby, HIV test is necessary. Is it that true?
Yes, that's true.
What was your take?
I thought it was necessary because it's good to know if at all you're negative, it's good to know how to protect your baby. If at all you're negative, it's good to know your status so that you can know how to protect the baby that you're carrying.
In your own thinking, do you think you have that freedom of choosing whether you are going for the test or not?
No, you don't have the freedom.
Thank you. That is what I wanted to come out. So ideally, when a young mother go to the facility and they are told, Mama, you are expecting a baby, before we give you Linda Mama, ingia pale. You think the medical, sorry if you are in the house and offended, you think the medical practitioner is doing you a favor and they have your interest at heart. I'm in the legal field, and in law, fetus is not a person. What do I mean? It cannot be sued, neither can it sue. It can't give direction, neither can it be given instructions. So, for you to access medical services, which is in the Constitution of Kenya, which says right to access to medication or right to access to healthcare services, HIV test should not be a precondition for you to access those services. So when you are told you have to go through HIV test for you to be given Linda Mama, number one, your right has been fringed. So you ought to have come to the tribunal. What they need to tell you is this: as an expectant mother, you are now carrying a life inside you. It is advisable for you to know your HIV status, so that in the event you turn out to be positive, you are put on medication so that you don't do what? You don't infect the unborn baby. But as much as you are told that, it is your right to decide whether you are proceeding with that test or not. Remember, in our country, there is freedom of choice. And that is one of the choices that you have the freedom to choose. So if I say yes, I will go for the test. Because now you have been told it's a precondition. Minus that test, no access to service. Yes, I will go for the test. If I'm positive, nitawekwa kwa ART. Betty will come and tell us. Nowadays, there is that change of treat and you test and treat. So you have tested me. Remember I said HIV and disclosure and acceptance is a journey. I've just come to the ANC. When I left my house, I knew I was going for my antenatal care. Here I am with the HIV test in front of me. I've gone through the HIV test. The results have come out positive. Number one, you need to ask yourself, is this person in a position to accept the outcome? As a medical practitioner, am I in a position to accept the outcome? Remember, they say, where I come from, that what you don't know doesn't kill you. So before you give out, this one is going to the medical practitioners and those in the medical profession. Before you disclose that results, the law, the act, which now will bring you before the tribunal, allows you as a medical practitioner to withhold the results until the client, we don't call them patients, until the client is in a position to accept the outcome, regardless of either positive or negative. If in your professionalism you are convinced that this person might commit suicide in the next time, the next moment I leave him, you are allowed to withhold the results until this person is ready to accept the outcome. So when you say an issue of consent, when you tell me for me to access services, I must go for test, is this consent? Because consent says that for me to consent to something, I must be explained to the importance of that test. I must be told the repercussion of doing that test. Then I must be given the options available after the test, regardless of the outcome. If I'm HIV positive, I'm told, kula vizuri, practice safe sex, tumia madawa, make sure you are there, adherence, and then maisha itaendelea kama kawaida. If I'm negative, I'm told, don't live a promiscuous life. Practice safe sex, make sure you use protection every time you are getting in touch with a party you don't know. In the event you find yourself, you are in a position that you are not going to protect yourself, run to the nearest facility. Waambie, I've been exposed. You will be put on pre-exposure prophylaxis. So, consent should be voluntary. That is the point I'm driving home. When I'm saying voluntary is that there should not be a precondition for that test to be done. If I'm told I have to get test for the ANC, which means I have no options available. For today, if I go to a bank, wamesema wanaongeza school fees from next year, and I have a student, class 6 sahi wanaenda kufanya, grade 6 wanaenda kufanya hiyo exams, they are going to the next class. So I run to the nearest facility for some loan. Then the credit manager tells me, before we give you loan, we need to know your HIV status because we might die before we paid our money. So, do I have a choice? Do I? I need the money. So, is that a consent? Is it voluntary? There is some beneficial attachment. That is what I'm bringing home. As long as the test has been done because there is a benefit attached to it, that is not voluntary. And you will find yourself as a guest at the HIV and AIDS Tribunal. Another case that we look into, I've dealt with the consent, stigma and discrimination. Stigma is people associate you. They look at you in your HIV perceived status and they treat you as such. Discrimination is you are treated differently from the rest of the population because of your perceived HIV status. A good case was, we have a school in Kajiado. So this mama went there and actually got a slot for the class 6. That was in the previous years. So she was told there's a vacancy. After doing the interviews, she was given the pro forma together with the school fee structure and the requirements. Then before leaving the institution, she thought it's wise I inform the administration that my child is on medication so that they know what they are admitting. So she went back to the principal's office and knocked and said, niko na jambo. Akaulizwa, what is the problem? My boy, you see, is under care. And I thought it was wise to tell you because that was a boarding school. When he comes in, he will need to be put on medication. Then the principal, the look on the face, the mother could see the look on the face. But he dismissed it and said, okay. Later on, after Mama went home, she was called. And the principal informed her, we are sorry, we thought there was a vacancy, but apparently there is no chance. So this was an afterthought because of the issue of HIV. So a friend of his, of the family, they used that friend to find out whether was really was the chance gone or it was because of the issue of HIV. So this friend of theirs, working in the media, also posed as a parent, enrolling a student in the same class. And apparently she was given a chance. So the mother concluded that the child was denied the vacancy because of the HIV status. So they came before the tribunal. Apparently, as we have said, the lawyer forgot to attach the admission letter. And because of that technicality, the case was dismissed. Because now the advocate for the school was defending the case, saying, if the child was admitted, can we see the admission letter? And you see in court, there is a process. Once you start a case, and the case commences, there are some documents that you cannot be allowed to bring. You are supposed to bring all the evidence you intend to rely on before the case commences, so that any party is in contention of the document, the maker can be called according to the evidence rules. So this document was not filed at instance, and therefore it could not be brought in the process of the court. So that document caused this case, but you could actually see the effect of stigma and discrimination. So this child lost a chance because of a perceived HIV status. Does it mean if you're HIV positive, you cannot live a normal life like any other person? Another case that we deal with is the issue of testing. Testing for HIV, those who are in the medical field, their consent. One, when someone is donating a body tissue, for example, they are donating kidney. Remember, this body tissue is going to be given to a third party. You don't want to infect another life. So the body organ will be subject to the HIV test. If it is HIV positive, it will be destroyed. If you are donating blood, that blood will be subjected to HIV test because the blood will be taken to another person through blood transfusion. And if it is infected, you are going to infect another life. So at that instance, that blood will be tested, and if it is found to be HIV positive, it will be destroyed. Another instance, when you are found unconscious on the road, perhaps you have been involved in an accident, and you have been taken to Kenyatta through Good Samaritan. So the doctor will test you, number one, to protect themselves. If you are HIV positive, they need to protect themselves so that they don't get infection in the line of duty. Another thing, because you are HIV positive, your immune system is down. Therefore, the way you are cared for and the way someone who is HIV negative is not the same. So yours is a special case. So the doctor will do this for purposes of managing you. Another instance is when it is clinically necessary. The doctor will help us to understand that. But my simple understanding is that you have gone to a doctor and you have indicated symptoms of malaria according to the symptoms you are suffering and the small analysis that the doctor has been able to do. Then you have been put on medication for malaria, a dose which is, I believe, run from 5 to 7 days. Then after 7 days, you are not showing any response. You are still the same the way you came. So the doctor will say, I'm not treating the right disease. So what will they do? They will conduct further tests to ascertain what is causing the illness. So in this, if they happen to do HIV test and they found it to be positive, they will not disclose these results to you because the process of HIV testing was not done. They will just recommend and tell you it is advisable to do an HIV test. So the purpose of the test was for clinically managing the patient. Another instances where you can test without consent is through a court order. There was a couple who came before the tribunal. The wife was a nurse, and the husband was an accountant. So the nurse was positive, and the accountant was negative. There are cases where we are called discordant couple. How many are aware of that? Have you heard that? Discordant couple? Yes. So there are cases where you can find a discordant couple. So this gentleman gave the wife, they were legally married, he gave the wife a piece of paper and a pen and told her to write down the list of men he has been sleeping with, because there is no way she's positive and is negative and is the only sexual partner. So in the process, fracas ensued and they fought. And she was injured. She went and took up a 3 form. And thereafter, when she came back, she was chased away from the matrimonial home. You know, in our African culture, you can't take me to court and still come back to my house as a man. So she was told, go and live with the police officers. So if you look at that instances, there are violation after violation. So this lady came before the tribunal, and because everyone has had an HIV test from wherever they tested, the court gave an order for the test to be done in an institution decided by the tribunal. So you can do HIV test as a result of a court order. The reason why I wanted to do this test is for us to be able to establish is it true that one is positive and negative. Now the doctors in the panel will help us to understand how is this possible when you look at the genetic. So that is how that case was resolved. So those are the only instances when you are allowed to do an HIV test without consent. Any other time, you must get consent before you test for those HIV, and you must get not coercion. It should be voluntary consent before you proceed with that test. Then the last one is the disclosure of the HIV results. The Act specifically states that the disclosure should only be done to the person who requested to the test, unless it was expressly stated so that you can share the results to another party. Or if the person who has been tested is a minor, then the next of kin or the guardian will be given the results. Or if the doctor is in incapacity, is convinced that the patient or the client is not medically fit to contemplate the outcome, then therefore they can release those results to the next of kin or guardian. But in any other instances, the results should be given to the party who has requested for the results. I'm having 1 hour, so I'm trying to be very quick because it is a wide area. The HIV and AIDS Tribunal is a quasi-judicial court. When I say this, when you look at the hierarchy of the courts, we have the Supreme Court as the superior most, then we have the Court of Appeal, then we have the High Court, then we have the Chief Magistrate Court, where all the subordinate court falls. So that is where we are. Therefore, which means our rank as a court is that one of a Chief Magistrate Court. Now, when you come before the tribunal, what are the remedies available for you? The HIV and AIDS Tribunal will reward you damages in terms of monetary compensation to the tune of 20 million Kenya shillings, depending on how you argue your case. Dr. Ambrose Nyang'ao, the HIV Tribunal will award damages up to the tune of 20 million in terms of damages. So if you are attending to 5 patients and all of them say you breached their rights under HAPCA and you are brought before the tribunal, chances are high you will part with a lot of money and you're likely to close. So that is the impact that the HIV and AIDS Tribunal has. It also has the powers to revoke license for a medical facility or for an individual practicing certificate. It has also powers to give orders for specific performance. For instance, if a facility has been reported that the staffs there are disclosing the results of the patient, the tribunal can give an order for that facility to do a training, sensitizing all the employees of the facility, and table a report confirming that the training was indeed done. And that training should only be done by the NASCOP or an HTS guy, someone who is licensed as an HTS counselor. And a report has to be tabled for how many days this training was done, and where was it done, and to whom was it done. Failure to which, you will be taken to civil court for contempt. And for contempt, if you are in contempt of court orders, you are liable to imprisonment for a term not less than 6 months, with a fine of 500 to 1 million, either of them or both, depending on each case. So this tribunal is not a joke. And again, the tribunal has a human face, as I indicated. It is the only court in Kenya where you will file a case without paying any legal fees. And it is also the only court where you will be given a lawyer free without charges. Do we have any advocate in the house? Senior, any lawyer? How much does it cost to open a file?
Oh, good afternoon, church members.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, my sister. Of what type of case?
The smallest claim.
5,000.
5,000.
Yes.
Then you must be very generous.
Yes.
Yes. So thank you. So yes, that is for opening a file. You are yet to do a legal opinion. You will also charge for the legal opinion and advise your client whether they have a case or not. After doing a legal opinion, you are supposed to do now the pleadings. You will still charge again for the pleadings. When you are going to court for filing, you will charge your client for filing fees. When you make appearance in court, once you are done with the attendance, you will come back and prepare a fee note. Isn't that so? At the HIV tribunal, we will give you a lawyer for free. How is that possible? Because we know we are serving a very delicate community, someone who is not only financially disadvantaged, but this is someone whose right has been infringed. And when someone's right has been infringed, it's not just right to access to something, this is right to health. And you remember, health is everything. Health is wealth. So you are on medication, and sometimes those medications have side effects. And therefore you are still dealing with the issue of stigma. Then someone comes and tells you still need to pay for you to access those services. Now, the tribunal waived all legal fees. You will come there for free. We'll actually give you tea and sambosa. There are some snacks there. Before the COVID came, we used to be provided breakfast by Sarova. Nice breakfast. But after COVID, things happened. So the budget was cut, blah, blah. But still, when you come, you want to miss something small. So you can see our HIV and AIDS tribunal is a special court that deals with a special community. And apart from the court work, we don't just deal with the court work. We go to the communities, we do outreach, we do a lot of sensitization programs, we do training for the lawyers, the pro bono lawyers, we do for paralegals, because at the HIV tribunal, actually you don't need to be a lawyer to represent a client at the HIV. As I had indicated, that we are a quasi-judicial court, meaning we are not strictly guided by the Evidence Act. So documents in the other courts you can be told, this one you have to call the maker. For instance, if a doctor prepares a medical report, no one can come and produce. They will come and mark them, but the author of the document will come and produce them in court. At the HIV and AIDS tribunal, we don't do that. Actually, if you are a witness, because of the fear of stigma, if you have a witness who is your neighbor and they fear coming to court, we will do something we call pretrial conference. And in the pretrial, we prepare something like a questionnaire where the witness will just mark and tick. So that exhibit will be adopted as testimony of the witness without calling the witness for, if there is issue of the protection of the said witness. Another thing at the HIV and AIDS tribunal is that When you file a case today, within 6 months, you are supposed to have your judgment with you. I believe for those who have gone to other courts, you have people complaining that we filed the case in 2010, 10 years down, the matter is still pending. At the HIV and AIDS Tribunal, we make sure that all the matters that have been filed are disposed within 6 days, within 6 months from the date of filing of the case. So as I'm standing here, I'm boasting that we don't have backlog at the HIV Tribunal. Actually, the oldest case we have is at 2021, and the reason why it has not taken off is that the members of the tribunal term ended in May this year, and because of the transition of the government, because the appointing authority of the board members is the Attorney General. So now because of the transition, the board members are yet to be appointed. That's why the court has not been sitting. So once you come before the tribunal, within 6 months at most, you are supposed to have your judgment. The only disadvantage that we have is that once you get your judgment before the tribunal, we don't have powers to execute our own orders. So you will have to go to the High Court to first adopt the decree of the tribunal as a document. Then thereafter, you proceed and file an application to execute the order of the decree. Another thing that we do at the HIV and AIDS Tribunal is we do a lot of work with our partners. We have partners who are the development partners like the UNDP and the UNAIDS. We do a lot of sensitization program, like last week we were doing for the paralegals, who are now our advocacy in the community. We also train lawyers. We also train people living with HIV to empower them with the knowledge to know when their rights are being violated. And again, because we are targeting a very key and vulnerable population, some of our clients are the sex workers. We have the key population. Those are the clients that come before the tribunal. But when they come there, we don't look them like with what they do, but we look them at as human beings whose rights have been violated. We don't judge people for who they are. And again, when we look at the key population, we have this now new gender, the intersex. If you are familiar with the developments which have been going on, there is a new law that has now acknowledged that we have a special group that is called intersex, and they are now even recognized in the Children's Act. So when a child is born, the part that they used to put boy or girl now has an option B, option A, B, and C. So that if the child is born with both organs, they don't feel like they don't belong, because there are people who are biologically oriented so. I'm trying to manage my time so that I give time for the discussion and any questions that might arise as a result of my presentation. So some of the partners that we deal with, we operate with are the Ministry of Health, because remember when the tribunal was formed, it was under Ministry of Health, but now it has transited to the judiciary. But still, we still partner with them because they are the people who will give us the doctors who will be in the panel. We have the Office of the Attorney General, who is now doing the appointing for the board members. We have the judiciary, because the tribunal now, as I'm speaking, is under the judiciary. We have the Treasury for purposes of the budget. Then we have the NASCOP, who are doing policy. That's why when my sister will come and talk about HTS, those guidelines always come from the NASCOP Council. Then we have the CSOs, the civil societies. We have the networks of people living with HIV, because they are our main employer. Without them, we will not have work to be doing. We have FIDA Kenya. We have Kituo Cha Sheria. We have Next Gen Lawyers. We have Pool of Advocates. And we have Strathmore University, who has been very instrumental for helping us to develop a CUC book. Every court has a court users committee. Even at the tribunal, we have a court users committee, and we are developing a write-up to guide us, so that when you come before the tribunal, how do you approach it? Before I conclude my presentation, is that I want to bring to your attention that when you come before the tribunal, there is no strict format on how you are supposed to present a case. In other courts, before you bring a case, you have to file a document. At the HIV and tribunal, just walk in, we will guide you through, and we will give you a form that you will fill, and that will commence your case. We have tried to make work so easier, because we know not everybody who comes before the tribunal have the legal background. So if you come there as a layman, you will be given guidance on how you are supposed to write your issue and articulate, and you can even do self-presentation. So if you are not able to do self-presentation because you can even do oral submissions, then in that instance you are going to be connected to a lawyer who is going to help you to do your case. As I wind up, I wish to advise us that the HIV and AIDS is not killing people. It has never killed people, and it will not kill people. What is finishing our population is stigma and discrimination associated with HIV. If we can stop stigma, the HIV will not be an issue. If we will stop discrimination, because it's because of stigma that so many people are not taking their medication. It is because of stigma that people are not disclosing their results. I come from the facility, I know I'm married, I've been told I'm HIV positive, but because of fear of how my spouse will take me, I take my medication without telling my spouse. So what happens? Since my spouse is exposed, since he's not taking medication, and we are still sexually active as a couple, I'm exposing my spouse at the same time he's also exposing me, because if it's not on medication, which means it's not adhering. Therefore, what we call U is equal to U. If you are undetectable, then you cannot transmit. So if he's not taking medication, which means he's not going to expose me further to other infection. So if we can stop stigma, and stigma starts with me, if you can stop self-stigma and the community stigma, we will not have this discussion any further. So I urge all of us, use the HIV and AIDS tribunal. I know you have a person or you know someone whose right has been violated. Make use of us. Come so that when we get judgment, we don't do that one so that we can punish people. But we want to bring to the society that there is a court that protects this life, and they have a right, be it education, be it life, be it healthcare services, be it on any other thing, even worship. There before, people used to be required to bring a certificate before the pastor officiate their weddings. Nowadays, you are just told, make sure you know the status of your partner. And what made that? Because of the training that we were doing with the faith-based sectors. So they went out and spread the gospel and said, it is wrong to demand a couple to bring an HIV test before you officiate that wedding. And actually, if you hear anyone who is being told to bring a HIV test result before the wedding is commenced, bring them before the tribunal, because that is a violation. Does it mean if I'm HIV positive, I don't have a right to marry? I don't have a right to give birth? So I'm looking forward for more collaboration, more partnership. I'm looking for more cases, to be specific, so that we can reach out to as many as possible. And with those many remarks, it's now open floor for questions and comments.
Thank you. As we take questions, I would like, remember we have online viewers. I would like her to sit here. But I also would like her to take more than one question at a time. But more importantly, for the sake of online viewers, ask your question in these areas. You move forward to this area or that area so that the cameraman can reach you. You can imagine an online viewer just hearing sounds. So you can have a seat. Let's take the questions. Let's see the hands that were up. The hands, not the feet. The hands that were up. Okay. So we have 2 questions. We'll take those 2, and then we wait for another round. Let's start with you. I hope you heard what I said, that you have to walk this side for the sake of online viewers, so that the cameraman can also be able to focus on you. Not necessarily up to here, but anywhere in the front side. So Tina, you.
I have one question and probably one comment. Thank you for your presentation, but the comment I have is personal. I have a personal comment that when I assess the way you have explained how the tribunal works, it is like it is prejudicial. Because if you encourage people, yet that they are coming, of course, some of them with maliciousness, to sue the hospital or the doctor for purposes of the 20 million which you said. Some of them could be knowing. They come with maliciousness. Then you treat them with a cup of whatever comfort zones that they can go on. You assist them with their forms to fill, and you advise them. You are prejudicial from the first word go. That's according to me. You want to judge the institution or judge the doctor. That's number one. Number two, a question. You said 20 million for the client. And remember, I'm a medic. 20 million for the client. What if the client was found by the tribunal to be malicious? Are you paying the 20 million to the institution or to the doctor?
Thank you. Second question or second comment. I'm not sure what's here.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, my sister. That was a super presentation and very insightful. I think we should be having more of this HIV. This is a very good, different dimension from the normal HIV that we've been having in the afternoon. Now, my question is, normally when we're having an interview, you're going for a new job, normally you're sent for a HIV test, and the results don't always come to you. They go to the organization. Is there a recourse? Because I've heard that you said, like what used to happen in the past when you're getting married, that has now stopped. I think you need to send this message to organizations. I don't know whether what you're doing about that. And I'm also talking about when we take like insurance policies, life covers, they always demand for those results. And at times they don't come to you. Or like for example, my organization has a life policy. You'll find my limit, for example, is limited to 5 million. Until I go for a HIV test, then I'll have my full cover. Do I have a recourse as an employee without being reprimanded? And since you talked that your organization covers HIV people, me who might not be HIV, and yet I feel aggrieved by the policy of the organization, because maybe I took the HIV test when I'm joining the organization, but they expect me every year for my policy to be renewed. They expect me to go for this, and I don't want to do that. Can I come to you people and you give me a lawyer for free? That's my question. Thank you.
Very interesting. So I had a good audience. Number one, we are prejudicial. When you come to us, we look at you as a person whose rights has been violated as per the HIV/AIDS Prevention and Control Act. So if you are saying you went to an hospital and Dr. Ambrose tested you without your consent, we will give you the form to fill. Remember, this is a court, and every party is given equal opportunity to defend or present their case. You will summon Dr. Ambrose. He will come and says, yes, he came to my facility on this date. I did the HIV test. And this is where he signed. So there is a consent form. Is it? So if the consent form is there, it will exonerate him. And he will be awarded cost. I think I've killed a bird with one bird with two stones. He will be exonerated in the event the consent form is there, and he'll be awarded cost. So the cost will cover for the being brought to court when there was no cause of action. And for 20 million, that is the maximum amount awarded at the tribunal. It doesn't mean every case you give 20 million. Every case is dealt with in isolation. You can find someone is awarded 200,000, someone is awarded 1 million. Every case, remember the 5 areas that I indicated. So every violation will be broken down into, and we will look into it, and we look at the previous precedents. How are the other cases in the previous been decided? And that will now influence the outcome of your case. So it's not guaranteed that we will work with. Actually, the client who have worked with the highest amount was 10 million, and that was against our church. There was a case against our church in the High Court, the SDA church. You know about it? Yes. The client was, that was the highest award I've ever seen. It was 10 million. Now, to my sister Oyugi was asked about the HIV test. Section 35 outlaws any test for purposes of seeking employment, marriage, travel outside the country, for purposes of getting insurance or renewal of insurance. So if you go to an insurance company and they tell you, before we give you a cover, we need to have HIV test. Please tell them to do that in writing, like an email. That is a condition for you to get that cover. Once you get that email confirming that, come to us. Because Section 35 says no one should be limited based on that test, whether it is an insurance policy, employment, travel outside the country, vying for any political seat, or any other marriage. So if what we are debating with, and I'm privileged, I was privileged to facilitate, and I was invited by the Federation of Kenya Employers, and we had a robust discussion, and they agree that the HIV and AIDS Tribunal needs to have a discussion with the AKI, Association of Kenya Insurance, because these employers, they have that tendency. They call it welfare. So in this welfare, you will find they will invite like an organization or a facility to come and do HIV test, a mass HIV test. We understand when you are an employer, you need productivity, then you need the issue of economic, what do we call it? The employer must be economically advantageous to the facility. So if they are healthy, the assumption is that they are going to be economically productive. So that is why they normally do those tests. But then we came and say there are some gaps that the HIV and AIDS Tribunal need to sit down with the Association of Kenya Insurers so that we also make sure that those policies that they come with, are they really in the interest of these employers or in the interest of employees? Then, if you look at, there was a judgment that came before the tribunal. This lady was having an education policy. He had taken a cover for her brother, and because of COVID, he lost form of employment. So as a result, he could not service the premium, so he stopped. Then after some time, he was able to get employed. So when she went to the insurance and said, I wish to continue, she was told either you pay the arrears, failure to which you go do HIV test and we give you a new cover. So she came before the tribunal, and since she had not paid the arrears, the tribunal was inclined to give her damages because they were saying, if you are given an option, either to pay the arrears and continue with the cover, or start a cover fresh. So you had options of doing of choosing one, but you declined to do any. But what I've seen, because remember, these insurance companies are also in the money, they are money-making organization. So what I'm seeing working now is that if you go for an insurance cover today, like Irina, I want a premium for my medical cover, there is that clause that if I disclose my status, there is a minimum premium I'm going to pay. For instance, 500,000 per annum. If I fail to disclose, the premium will go higher. Reason being, they are saying they don't know the risk they are taking. So they will raise your premium. That is what is working currently. But still we are seeing this as discriminatory. Because why should my premium go higher and the other one, theirs don't go higher? But there is a discussion that we are still having because you are given an option. And remember, this is an insurance company who is in the market, and they are in the business to make money. So as we are protecting the rights of people living with HIV, we also need to have interest of those people who are in the business. But what I know is that a recommendation has been made that the HIV and AIDS Tribunal need to come out and have a table talk so that those policies or those guidelines that will come from the employers, the insurance, they are in line with the HIV Control and Prevention Act. And sorry, I failed to mention, this Act of 2006 is under amendment. Reason being, it is a document that was gazetted way back in 2006. Remember 2010, we passed a new constitution of Kenya, and therefore the act is sometimes in conflict with the constitution of Kenya. So we are trying to line up everything so that they are in order. So the documents, we have 0 draft, and very soon it will come for public participation. So especially those who are in the medical field, please make yourself comfortable with that document, because you are the most casualties at the tribunal. You are the end users at the tribunal. Have I answered all your questions? Thank you. Section 35 of the HAPCA.
Let's take the next set of questions, and this time around we can have shorter answers so that we have as many questions as possible. Any other question or comments? Yes, there is one here. Any other person? Please pass the microphone, but you also agree that you're moving forward for the sake of camera. Any other person? Because that might be the last question. If you are left out, maybe utamwona kando baadaye, but we would rather share these questions and discussions so that whatever is troubling your mind is shared with everybody else. Like the question Tina had was a question in some other people's minds that I know. Any other hand? I want to be sure that I'm not locking out anyone. Thank you very much. That's the last question. Then you will do your closing comments, and then we move to the next speaker.
Good evening. I have a question. In my organization, you cannot be employed when you are HIV positive. You are tested during the interview, and if you test positive, you are disqualified there and then. So I was asking, how can you help in your tribunal?
Thank you so much. As I indicated that before you sit, what does the organization deal with?
Okay, I'm not allowed to.
No, I'm just that organization that does it deal with food production?
No.
Thank you. There are only one instances when HIV test is a precondition, when you are working in a food beverages company, and the person who is supposed to do that HIV test is not your employer. You are supposed to be sent as a government to a government chemist near Kenya. Nowadays it's called what? The or Kenya Poly. There was a certain in there. There is a facility next to. Yes, that is where you are supposed to go for the test, and they are the ones who are allowed to issue the certificate. But only if the organization is dealing with on food beverages. Any other, you are not supposed to come to the tribunal like yesterday. And another thing, if you test somebody for HIV, for instance, in your company, you will be told that before we employ you, you need to have your medical background. And one of the medical background is the HIV test. Most instances, you will find that institution as insurance company. So they will test you. They send the invoices to the insurance for the insurance to settle. So what do they do when they're sending that? They send that together with the treatment notes. And the treatment notes indicate you are tested for HIV test. That one alone has amounted to disclosure. If you can get that email forwarding those messages, that is enough for us. Because HIV test is a personal test which is supposed to only be disclosed to the person whose test was done to, not any other person. And that one now brings me to Oyugi's case. Your test should not be sent to a third party. For instance, if you are working with an organization which has insurance company, and they test you and they send your results to the insurance, they have a course, and you should come to the tribunal for damages. Yes. Any other burning issue before I leave the podium? Okay, I'm told to give a closing remarks. First of all, I want to take this privilege to thank the management and the organizing committee for the humble invitation. I don't take it for granted. Getting such forums is not a joke, and I'm humbly privileged to stand before you today. And I also want to thank you so much for the time you have engaged me. I have not seen anyone praying for me, so I believe I did a good job. So thank you so much for the privilege. I'm looking for more forums like this so that we get acquaintance with the tribunal, with the rights, and so that we became advocates. When you go outside there, tell people there is a court. Don't stigmatize, don't disclose, don't do what? Don't discriminate. So those are my parting shots. Thank you so much. And once again, I'm very humble.
Thank you so much. I would like to thank you also for having accepted, and I just want to confirm from the congregation if that was enough dose. Was it enough? You need more. So, Lynette, you are still in office until 31st. They have said they need more. So if there's any handover, you can talk to her on our behalf. Pastor is here, he will still be in office, so he can follow up with us. But I think it was a very important topic to discuss. How many of us knew that there is a tribunal? How many knew that there is a HIV AIDS tribunal? I can see only 2 hands. 3, 4, maybe 3 hands only. And some of them are in the medical profession. So maybe they've appeared before. Yeah? We are fairly well protected. So now there was a second speaker who was supposed to speak on nutritional matters and HIV and AIDS and all that. She has not managed to log in, so will not have the benefit of enjoying her topic of discussion. However, she has sent us some slides, which if she authorizes us, we shall share in various walls. But if you don't see those sharings, just know that she did not give us the authority to go ahead and share her presentation. Now I want to ask Betty, I don't know whether you can use negative 3 minutes to give us a little presentation on what you had, and I don't like preempting even what the topic is about, so that we can be a little more enlightened on current trends. Yeah, please come over. Our time is generally up, but I think it's important, and they are still yearning to hear more. And if you tell us a little more than we expected, we will expect you here every Sabbath to just give us a little dose, if you have more than what we can achieve today. So maybe in the next 5 to 10 minutes, Betty can do this. We'll get a few questions, a few comments, and a few reactions to what she will have presented. Betty, karibu. You don't need introduction.
Good afternoon. My name is Beatrice Lekindu. I'm working at Mother Renal Health Center, supporting HIV program with Fahari ya Jamii, University of Nairobi. So this year we have a new guideline, but there are few changes that I want to put across. Like we all know that when one is HIV positive, you're supposed to use Septrin and ARVs. So with the new guideline, we find that there are specific people. We are going to do away with the Septrin, but we have the specific group who will use the Septrin. The specific group who will not use the Septrin are the stable client. So we want to know who is a stable client. A stable client is a patient who has been on care for more than 1 year and above. A stable client is a client who is virally suppressed. In short, amemeza dawa mpaka kiwango ya virusi imerudi chini. That is a stable client. A stable client has no history of missed appointment. That is another definition of a stable client. Then so we say that the stable client will not be given. Another reason for being a stable client, the stable client can be given a long TCA. Maybe he or she will be visiting the facility after 3 or 6 months, depending with the clinician. So we want to focus on about the unstable client. The unstable client are children below 15 years PMTCT mothers. What is PMTCT? Prevention of mother-to-child transmission. Any pregnant woman is an unstable client. Any breastfeeding woman who is HIV positive is an unstable client. Any client with a high viral load is an unstable client. So with the new guideline, we are going to do away with the septrin, but the unstable client will be the one to be given septrin, because we have been having shortage of septrin, and to avoid the cost, to tell the patient to go and buy the septrin, that's why they have decided to do away with the septrin, but only for the remaining few to be for specific group. So I want to discuss about how to know if somebody is high viral load. High viral load is from 1,000 copies and above. So if a patient has high viral load, we normally repeat CD4 after receiving the results. CD4 we repeat within, if we get the result, we contact the patient within 2 weeks after receiving the result. Then from there, we repeat CD4. We do CD4. And you know that a normal human being should have a CD4 from 500 and above. So after doing the CD4, we will have a group called multidisciplinary team, MDT. Multidisciplinary team, we will discuss about the patient so that we follow up this patient to enable this person to suppress. Then during multidisciplinary team, we will have a case manager, and a case manager is that person who is working within the health facility. Case manager can be a nurse, can be an adherence counselor, can be a CHB, because we work together with a CHB. A case manager can be a peer educator or OTZ champion. OTZ champion is in charge of adolescents. So we assign a case manager. So from there, after assigning a case manager, we will conduct, adherence counselor will conduct the enhanced adherence counselor with the client. We call it EACs. We will conduct enhanced adherence counselor giving short TZA. So which means if you have high viral load, you will be given drugs for 2 to 1 month. You will not be given drugs for 3 months. Then after having 3 successful enhanced adherence counseling, we will repeat the viral load after 3 months. We will only repeat the viral load after 3 months. After 3 months, if the enhanced adherence counselor is successful. If the enhanced adherence counseling session is not successful, we will continue with the session until the enhanced adherence counseling session be successful. After that, we will repeat the viral load. So we find that if the patient has persistent high viral load, maybe like we have some of the patients, like since they were enrolled to care, they have never been suppressed. So if the patient has been having persistent high VL, these patients will be switched to second line. If the patient is switched to second line, so there he will be using more than two drugs. He will be taking drugs in the morning and in the evening. That's why we normally advise our patient that kindly make sure that you remain at the first line. Because there are so many challenges. We find that if somebody switched to second line, this patient end up anapotea. You can't trace this person. You know, we live in Nairobi, and we have patients all over. Some even come from Kisumu, Ukambani. So we normally advise, kindly make sure you remain at first line. So the question, another question might be, why were you using Septrin? We know that the use of Septrin was to prevent opportunistic infection, and we all know the opportunistic infection like pneumonia, salmonella infection, candidiasis, and TB. So we found that the unstable client, which I've mentioned the name, the category, have a low immunity system. Their immunity system is weak. That's why we give the Septrin. They are at risk of getting opportunistic infection. I think I'm done unless there is a question, because that's what I wanted to explain.
You relaxing as they ask questions.
Huh?
Let's have you relax as they have questions. Is there any choristers in the house? Are there any? Any question to our sister? Any comment? Hey, it is either Betty or is it Beatrice or Betty is very thorough, or that you missed everything. Hakuna swali elder. That's unique. Oh, it was a bit technical. That's a possibility. So, Betty, can one graduate from unstable to stable? And can they sometimes flip backwards? So that those who are currently stable do not imagine that they will remain stable throughout, or those who are unstable will be having a life of hopelessness, that they will remain unstable throughout. With a microphone.
Can one graduate from unstable to stable? Like at the facility level, we have 2 clinics. We have comprehensive clinic care and we have PMTCT. PMTCT mostly is for women living with HIV, and at the same time they are either pregnant or they have newborns. So you find that, for example, after delivery for a pregnant woman, we normally have tests depending with the age of the child. So you find that the last test which we normally do after 18 months for the babies, that is the last test. When the result turn out to be HIV negative, this woman will move from PMTCT to the CCC clinic. So the moment she's through with the breastfeeding period, she will be removed from PMTCT to CCC, which means after breastfeeding she will be stable unless she has high viral load. One can graduate, like I said, we can have so many after session, after repeating the high viral load. Most of the clients who normally suppressed, depending, because during the session we identify the barriers that can lead to high VL. So maybe you find there is an issue of time management, there is an issue of missed appointment, there is the issue of missed pills, there is the issue of non-condom use, there is the issue of disclosure. So you find that during this ESC period, the client can follow or can work on the barriers so that by the time we are repeating the viral load, the client will be suppressed. And when the client is suppressed, he or she will be a stable client.
Thank you so much, Betty. Do you have a parting shot? Do you have a parting shot? Do you want to leave them with something? Ama umemaliza?
I have a petition. I've been serving under HIV department since 2017, and due to COVID, we have not, at least we have tried to do some of the programs with schools, and even during COVID, we tried to do the virtual, and we also train peer educators. I don't know where they are. We train almost 20 peer educators.
Here.
I don't know whether they disappeared, because sometimes you communicate in that wall, nobody is responding. So kindly, HIV department is such a nice department, because we all know that if you are not affected, you are infected. Be in a position that you can offer your services outside or inside our church. Because it is a nice program. We can even come up with a CBO to assist our fellows. We can have a small organization. We can have a support groups. Yeah, we can have things like care workers here, but hawataki wajulikane. Hawataki wajulikane kwa bisa. So tafadhali, I hope the next leadership, the healthcare workers who are around, when they wajitambulisha, they will be able to come out so that we work together. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Judging by the noise outside, it looks like even your children are waiting. You can go with it. Maybe we just all stand and sing one hymn. Then we'll ask Lynette to give a vote of thanks and invite the elder touch and or the pastor, if that is okay. So I can see Washington is here, although he's trying to hide behind somebody's head. Please come and assist. I can see Elder Melis, you can chorus today. Karibu sana in the afternoon. Who else can chorus here? I'm looking for you. Let's all, please come over. Please come over and let's all stand, have us a little song, stretch our circulation, have our circulation a little better. And then we have a vote of thanks and have a closing prayer. There are microphones. Let's all be upstanding.
Good afternoon. We can do song number 313, the first three stanzas of 313, Just As I Am. Just as I am without one plea. Together. Just as I am without one plea, but now thy blood was shed for me, and that thou bidst me come to thee, O Lamb of God, I come, I come. Just as I am, and waiting not to rid my soul of one dark flood, to thee whose blood
can cleanse its portal Lamb of God, I come, just as I am, thou tossed about with many a conflict, many a doubt, fighting within and fears without, O Lamb of God, I come, I come.
Happy Sabbath once more. Happy day. Sawazisha. Equalize. Thank you. So you can remember. That was our call this today and for the rest of the year. That's the clarion call. I would like to thank the speakers of the day since morning up to now. We've had the different sessions where we've had HIV discussed from different perspectives, and now we've ended with the tribunal and also the current changes, the new developments in the treatment and management of HIV/AIDS. And I want to thank everybody who has participated. Beatrice and Karen, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Elder Ambrose, for facilitating this session. Always really candid. Lillian gave us the highlights. Lillian Nyangao, Sister Lillian Nyangao gave us the highlights. Thank you, she's still with us. Pastor, thank you so much. We are deeply indebted. You've given us the space, you've given us the respect, and you've given us the time, and you have honored us with your presence. Thank you. Pastor Githinji, Paul Githinji, and you're still here up to now. The impossible made possible. Much, much appreciated. And you threw the challenge back to us and gave us the responsibility. Issues of access, issues of treatment, issues of social support, and especially the issue of stigma. Thank you very much. I want to thank the HIV/AIDS Council for having assisted us to prepare for this day and also for walking with us the journey. I want to thank the wider, our mother department, the health ministries under Esther Momanyi Orangi, very, very much. We have worked so well. The medical team, the health team is such a warm and vibrant team. I just want to thank everybody, Nairobi East members, who have stayed the course with us for the day. I want to thank our online viewers for partaking in the service and for being with us during the different sessions of the day since 8 o'clock this morning. The last session was about the tribunal, a different perspective. There's one outstanding session within that, which we intend to find a slot in the health talk. This is intentional infection. When somebody knows that they are HIV/AIDS and they decide to transmit it to you, how do you react? And this has happened in the past. whenever I look at Elder Ambrose, Dr. Ambrose, I think of the journey that we have had in HIV/AIDS in Kenya. I remember the days, today I'm hearing about the rights. Let me tell you, in the beginning, when this pandemic came and it landed on our laps, we just had to do what we had to do. A big bill. The insurance didn't know anything about it. They had no obligations. And it has been a long journey. I was listening to Tina, talking about the rights in employment and the intricacies of, the demands they want to make. This is all very well because now this is part of the journey. So the HIV/AIDS has gone full circle. I remember the first case when I handled HIV/AIDS from a human resources perspective. So I was managing the health of the staff. And here we had a member of staff with 300,000 bill. And we had to plead for ex gratia. And slowly, over the years, we worked out and we built it into the insurance policy, and we, all the way until what it is today, where people can now talk about rights and say, I want this, I want that, and they'll be listened to. So I thank God for this journey. HIV/AIDS is an issue which is personal. Because Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, you and I are the ones who have been affected most. The prognosis was bad. But over the years, we have seen a transformation and we have seen hope. In the SDA church, we never used to talk about HIV/AIDS. It was the disease of the others. And now, look at us here talking about HIV/AIDS from the church with our church pastor sitting with us. Two pastors in the same sitting. Our elders concerned, doctors, nurses, all concerned. Don't we thank God? Don't we thank God? Through God, the impossible becomes possible. So thank you very much, and may God bless you all. I'm going to ask our elder to manage the last session, and just taking note that we have our two pastors here, and we are really honored. I have worked with Martin Obat. Initially, we had Elder Ambrose as our elder. Great journey, great liaison. And now we have Elder Martin Obat, another, very responsive and candid and very loving elder. What a blessing. What more could anybody want? So thank you so much. Thank you so much, elders, and may God bless you, and may God continue to, just to take the HIV/AIDS program from strength to strength. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.
I think my leaders almost said everything, but allow me to just say one last thing before I invite Pastor Muchache for closing prayer. Karina, I know my leaders thanked the presenters, but don't accuse me of favoritism. Karina, I want you to accept that I also become part of your success. From your presentation, I know you're a good employee. Allow me to become part of your success story. If you are a failure, I could not have said, you know why I'm saying that. Pastor Mchache, welcome for closing prayer.
May we rise up for a word of prayer. May we pray. Everlasting Father, God above, God of heavens, honor and glory be to your name, and thank you for this privilege which you have given us. It's our prayer that the knowledge we have received today, more so the knowledge from your word and that of medicine, may they work hand in hand as we understand this pandemic that is with us, how to dwell with it, how to live with the people who have been affected and those who have been infected. May your Holy Spirit abound amidst us, continue to comfort us and keep us by your side always, for it's our prayer. In Jesus' name, amen.